No, I think I've got a decent answer to that question. I feel like one-dimensional is very unfair on a world-class bowling attack, but I will take on board it was a poorly executed bowling effort this evening. When you look back at those last 4 overs, that was just a horror story. 73 off the last 4 is unacceptable as world-class players, and that bowling lineup has to reflect on that performance, because it's been a number of times in this tournament where key players like Prasid have gone for big runs in their overs, and it was purely an executional thing. Challenging, their overall performance, I think, is very dangerous at this stage of the tournament. I think KG Rabada had an outstanding day, and in fact is having a very good tournament. I mean, his pace today is a nightmare for batting units. 150, consistently above 140, and hitting very good areas as a world-class player is exactly where we need him to be. Ashok, as a young player, requiring at this level some touch, and I'm sure that Ashish Nehra will, be in his ear, as he will all the bowlers' ears. In fact, everyone on the planet at this stage, considering that performance, which, as I said, was both very average with the ball, firstly, on a wicket that I really felt was probably a 175 type wicket. When you look historically at this black soil pitch on number 5, it's a 218 wicket for the loss of 5 batters. That's been its winning first innings score, and today it wasn't that wicket. It was visible that it had cracks in it. It was visible that it was up and down. So credit also has to go to Tilak Varma, who put in a wonderful performance from the position that you were just mentioning before. So we've got some work to do, definitely. Huge performance. I once spoke to a fisherman and asked him a question about longevity in his life and in his career, and he said, "Boy, when there's plenty of fish around, everyone catches fish." But what he did was that he caught fish when no one else was catching fish. And, Mumbai Indians, we all know that they're a dangerous side. We all know that they're a notorious starter. We all know that they've got magic within that ocean that surrounds their ground there in Mumbai. And, as an opposition side, we knew that, and we definitely, we blinked. And when you blink against a world-class player like Tilak Varma, even on a wicket that's kind of spicy, that was our downfall. And we couldn't really retract the negative momentum that was going our way because of the performance that we saw Tilak tonight. It wasn't just a one-dimensional performance. It wasn't a cookie-cutter type performance. It was a dominant performance down the ground. He read the play nicely. We went into the wicket. He was able to pick up and play with power and precision. And when you reflect on our own batting, we had one side of the ground that was a little more inaccessible and the other, and we lost, 3 wickets into the bigger side of that boundary. So Tilak, he had his day out, and he's now got Mumbai Indians in a position where they seemed like they were lacking a bit of belief. All of a sudden, even with 2 young players, they were able to beat us at home here. This is a 50-50 record for us now. I think we're actually playing accordingly to that record. Winning 3, losing 3. Before tonight, we'd won 2 out of the 3 run chases. Again, we put ourselves in a position to chase runs. And it wasn't an impossible total. 200 still is a total that I would back our 3 world-class players at the top of the order to etch into that a bit more, and then allow our more sort of game players an opportunity to set out their stalls and bat deep into the innings. It was just a horrible day for us today, to truth be known. There was nothing good about this day, really, apart from KG Rabada's performance with the ball. Yeah, I think it's a similar answer to the one that I had before, and so far as I explained, just how I believe that this is a world-class bowling attack. I mean, you've got the Indians' premier fast bowler. You've got Prasid Krishna through the middle, who has a magnificent ability to be able to be into the wicket, take pace off the ball. You've got an out-and-out bolter in Ashok who's bowling thunderbolts that on any given day can go for runs. But that's the X factor of our bowling attack. A little bit like Shah Rukh Khan, for example, is our X factor with the bat. And then, when you look at KG Rabada, the way that, he's come into this season a little more buoyant, I feel, than some of the other seasons as a broadcaster that I've looked at and gone, well, he's a world-class player, but he's going for, 11s, 12 runs and over. So, I just feel like he's in a really good place, and he's in a time of his life where he can really lead our attack, and that's exactly what he did today. And I'm forgetting to mention, of course, Rashid Khan as well, who, has been under some pressure in the previous two editions of the IPL, but seemingly, is in a good place and is bowling well. And I'll back him in as well to, be a consistent performer through the middle, which is where we can really make inroads into any batting lineup. See, whenever you put wise old cricketers in front of mics, we come up with the liquid gold around, how luck is an important part of the game, because we all know that that's a fact. And look, when you're playing the shorter formats of the game, where the margins are always very small between teams, there are moments, and that was certainly a moment with the umpire's call with Joss, who's been, batting beautifully. It's been a masterclass from Joss most of the time that he's been out in the middle for us now. So luck, of course, plays its role, and we all know that as crusty old sea dogs of the game. But you've got to create your luck, and Tilak Varma created his luck. And to his credit, and to our loss, that was really where the swing of the game was. You can't afford to leak 70 off the last 4 runs. That's an impossible scenario to really, and an impossible margin. I will say this though, that as a batting coach, I expect our margins to be a lot smaller than 100. That is an unacceptable scorecard for our batting unit. When you look down at our batting lineup, we've got, wonderful players that have to be in a better mindset and better position to take their opportunities. And that will be our expectations moving forward. And that is our expectations in this tournament, and has been since the conception of this Gujarat Titans franchise in the limited times that it's been in IPL cricket. So you can't be sitting here and being happy about, a 100-run margin game in a 20-over game. I mean, back in my day, 100 runs was almost a winning total in 50-over cricket. 220, was a big total. Now they're getting that in 20 overs. So, we've got to be just a lot better than where we were today. That was a terrible performance. Well, middle order was undoubtedly exposed today. When they're coming in with 6 overs, you know that you're in deep trouble. See, the thing about the power plays is that you can't win it from there, and especially in a run chase, but you can definitely lose it. And we lost it in the power play. And we're putting a lot of pressure on our middle orders that, when you look at the way that the middle order go about preparation, it's vastly different to the way that the top 3 handle those preparations. They are batting for impact. When you send Shah Rukh Khan in there, I don't know what those numbers that Partif says, but if you're getting 7 balls and you're striking at 180, you're having a hell of a season. See, those numbers seem ridiculous if you're looking for aggregates and averages and all of those things. That's where, I guess, the older generation, of which I'm one, will look at and go, well, what is the relevance to 50s, 100s? Are those benchmark KPIs, are they important even? And I would go as far as to say today, yes, they were really important in terms of having those top 4 players, one of which, there was Tilak Varma, and then there was a Forrest ahead of all the other batsmen for Mumbai Indians, because he got 100. So the relevance behind balls faced, when you look at, for example, someone like Glenn Phillips, his strike rate of 180 with his record in T20 cricket is an impressive strike rate, and you'll take that all day long in the majority of games. However, you need an upfront batting effort where you consistently, as we usually do, having good problems to have, having our first 3 players up front taking the lion's share of the batting. If I was being highly critical already of our top order, it would be that they are not getting into the Tilak Varma stages. We shouldn't be allowing, you know, Tiwu or Shah Rukh Khan or these guys, lots of balls. That's not their role. That's not what they train for. You know, we are a very good thinking batting unit. We're not a conservative batting unit. You don't go out and get 200s as often as they do being conservative, but they're a thinking batting unit and they're an adaptive batting unit. And what that means is that they've got their roles and they have to play them, and today they simply didn't. So the worry isn't just today about the middle order. It'd be unfair to say that, you know, they were going to go on and score 13 runs and over, because by that stage I felt like as a batting coach I was on the mast and the boat was sinking.